Hey everybody, Walt Dickinson, founder brewer here at Wicked Weed Brewing, and we have a new canvas. Again, I'm just so in love with the format and the labels for this series. And this one is exciting for me because me and Andrew kind of synced up on the inspiration, but it's Vinifera. And for me, it's directly inspired by sherry. I was lucky enough to take a trip there last year to go to, basically it's a region in southern Spain where they produce sherry. And it was important for me to see that because everything we do in the sour program, if you ever maybe heard me talk about it on other videos or been on a tour, a lot of times I'll say, well, the process we use here is what we'd like to call a modified Solera, okay? So Solera is a method of wine production used specifically for sherry production, right? And what that is where basically instead of every time they make a sherry, right, they're creating a new sherry, a new batch, a new brand from fermentation all the way through to the bottle. They're constantly making sherry, and they're taking like an old barrel, they empty some, and then they pour some of that into the next barrel. And it's kind of this, I can get really technical with it, but basically it's where if I get a sherry, right, a bottle of sherry from, let's say, Lustau, sherry, a very famous sherry producer, that sherry has parts of the sherry in it that are in that bottle are from the very first batch of Lustau that was produced over 200 years ago. Because once you produce it, it's the same thing we do, where they're using that house culture, that mother culture, and they're constantly passing it down, kind of like a sourdough starter. So when you go there, I mean, sherry, I think we all think of sherry as, and I'm gonna get to talking about beer eventually, not sherry, but we all think of sherry as kind of like your grandmother's beverage, right? Like the thing she drank that was very sweet, very raisiny. And that's just one type of sherry, which we'll call sherry dulce or sweet, like a sweet sherry, cream sherry, right? And that's kind of what we think of because that was very popular in England, and most of us have some kind of influence from England, right? But the reality is they make a lot of very dry sherries that are super cool, and there's kind of this range. My favorite is Amontillado. And Amontillado is very much on the drier side where it's going through that long-term fermentation. And we're talking about, at least 15, 20, 30 years worth of aging for any sherry you're gonna get, right? And this has this beautiful, bright acidity paired with really, really deep, nutty, and raisiny characters. So what we did is we took a blend of some sour base that had been in bourbon barrels and been in a few other things, blended those together as we do with a lot of the stuff on the canvas side where we're kind of picking and choosing moments in the cellar. And then took all that stuff and we racked it onto walnut, organic walnut extract and a natural almond extract. Fuck, let's do that part again. Gotcha. Ready? I'll just go back to it. So then what we did is we took that beer after we blended and found a base that we thought was fairly reflective of kind of some of the notes in sherry, and then we added all those other characters, that nutty character, right? So hazelnut and walnut, natural extracts, and then we also added some golden and red raisins to it. And I think what we ended up with is something that is, if you had an Amontillado, this is like a low alcohol sparkling Amontillado. And I think it's really beautiful and a cool way of approaching sour beer and looking at it and finding those deep, rich, kind of more caramelized and nutty and raisiny characters that usually we're always shooting on acid and fruit and bright. And this is very kind of deep and complex and beautiful. And I'm just really proud of how it turned out. So get a hold of it, Vinifera. It's the newest canvas. Cheers.